I play a lot of different kinds of video games. Fighting games, though, are definitely games I don't play too often, and I think it's because I'm not very good at them, to be honest with you. I'm pretty good at Super Smash Brothers. I've always been very good at this game, but fighting games, it's just something I pick up here and there, have a little fun with it for like 15 minutes or so, and then I just kind of pass it along. Well, there is one franchise that I've always really loved, and it's definitely the Tekken series. Tekken 3 was definitely a game I played a lot as a kid, and I absolutely loved that game. I thought the combos in those games were pretty easy to learn, and that's kind of what I liked about them. I felt like I could get good at the game pretty easily. Take a game like Street Fighter, I've just never been good at that game. People are very competitive with games like that or Mortal Kombat, but I've just never been good at those games. But Tekken was kind of the one that I was always fond of, because back in the day, my dad bought it, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I just got done playing through the first 3 Tekken games and playing them for a little while, and I definitely have a lot of things I want to discuss. I want to talk about these games, if they still hold up today, and if they're worth your time if you've never checked them out on the original PS1. Sit back, relax, let's take a look at the original Tekken games on the original PlayStation.
Round 1. Fight!
Tekken began back in 1994 in Japan, and it started as an arcade game. North America eventually got this the following year, and the game got ported to the PlayStation in '95. The game designer of the first 2 Tekken games is Seiichi Ishii, hope I pronounced that right, and he actually worked on games like Virtua Racing and Virtua Fighter. A lot of people think too that Virtua Fighter and Tekken have a lot in common, which they definitely do, and it's funny because one of the game designers worked on both, so that's hilarious. Seiichi Ishii also made some other stuff too after Tekken 2. He made stuff like Tabal No. 1, and as well as Air Guys, which was both on PS1, so definitely a fighting game connoisseur. The story of Tekken is really the same in every game almost, but in this game, there's a tournament held by Heihachi Mishima, and Tekken means Iron Fist in Japanese. So basically, he wants to prove his power against his son, Kazuya, and Kazuya seeks a lot of revenge on Heihachi. There's other characters too along the way that come into combat, but basically you just gotta be number 1. It's very similar to Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat in terms of the story. The gameplay, it's a fighting game just like everything else I've mentioned before, and Tekken does bring a few things to the table that are kind of new though. D-pad is definitely how you move and do all your combo stuff, but square and triangle are your punches, and each button actually is one of your limbs. So you got 2 arms, 2 legs, so square and triangle are your arms to punch, and then X and circle is your kicking. You have a good amount of combos too that you can learn. Now with Tekken 1 though, the game will not tell you the combos, especially whenever you're playing it. So if you want to look up the combos, well, you better hope you have the manual, or you just look it up online and you can see it. The combos is definitely the key though. If you just punch or kick your way through, you're probably going to have a hard time because the enemies get a lot harder as you fight them, especially in arcade mode. And that brings me into the next point. Arcade mode, 2-player mode, and options. That's all you got here with this game. Pretty simple. Arcade mode, you go and you choose a character. You have about 8 different characters you can choose from the get-go, and you can pick either one of them, doesn't matter. Arcade mode is comprised of about 9 stages. You go through the first 7 stages of the other main characters you didn't pick. Stage 8 is a character you actually unlock that if you beat arcade mode, you get that character. And the last stage is Heihachi, the one that organized the whole tournament, and he's pretty much essentially the final boss of this game. You can go to the options menu before you start playing the game, and you can actually change the difficulty setting here. So that's actually very nice if you want some practice at this game, and that's what I did, to be honest with you. I put it on easy, and you can also save the game here, and you can check your records, and that's about really it for the options. Meat and potatoes of this game is definitely the gameplay, but definitely the characters, I'd say. To start with the main ones, you've got Kazuya. He's kind of your balance attacker, and he's pretty good whenever he does attack. He has good combos and such. You've got Yoshimitsu. He's got this sword that he has. You don't really use it too often, but hey, he's a cool character. Got Michelle. She's like this Native American chick. Nina. I remember Nina in Tekken 3, and Nina is a very good character as well. You've even got King, and he's a luchador, and he's pretty powerful. You got a big robot guy named Jack, and he's pretty powerful, but he can't kick very well, and he's got a huge hitbox. You've got classic tough guy Paul here as well. And lastly, my personal favorite, Law. Law is one of my most favorite characters to play in the Tekken series. All characters feel very different enough and have their own combos and such, and definitely have their own play styles, so it's really just about preference, and you kind of just have to go and tinker with each character just to see which one clicks with you. As I said earlier, you do unlock characters when you beat the game with each one, and you'll get a new character. Now here's the setback though. With these new characters, you can only play with them in 2-player mode. In arcade mode, you can only play with the main characters. That's kind of stupid. I don't understand that. But if you want to go and play with these new characters, you can do it in one-on-one in 2-player mode. Tekken 1 was a really fun game to play overall. Yeah, it's very simple, but it's a good starting point for how this series progressed on with each entry. This game definitely was very innovative at the time, because it was a huge jump to the 3rd dimension from the 2 dimension, even though Virtua Fighter was before this one, but this one definitely, I think, has more polish than Virtua Fighter. I'm sure somebody would disagree with that, but in my opinion, I think Tekken is just more fun. Yeah, it's a bummer you can't use the unlockable characters in arcade mode, but this game still has a lot of depth to it, and it's a really good pick up and play game if you and your friend want to have a few rounds, or if you want to just take a jab at arcade mode. Also a cool touch that you can adjust yourself in the foreground and background to make it really feel like a 3rd dimension game. The levels are pretty cool too. You go to a lot of different places, and they're all different, but they don't have anything to do with the gameplay. It's just cosmetic, of course. The music in Tekken is very good, and it's like workout music kind of deal. It's very hyper and energetic. It goes very good with the mood. I had a really fun time playing this game though. Tekken 1 was a blast and a cool game and a good way to start off this franchise. Now I can really see why this game was so popular back in the day, because this definitely was a huge transition to what fighting games could be in the future. Tekken 2 came out a year later. 95 was when the arcades hit, and then in 96 we got the game on the PlayStation. Tekken 2 really kind of seems like it runs on the same engine as the first game, but there's definitely a lot of additions here with this one. The story is still the same like the last one. It's a tournament, but the roles have been reversed. Kazuya was the protagonist, Hidehachi was the bad guy. They swapped places this time. Now you can pick Hidehachi in the main menu, and Kazuya is the boss. There's also been an update to the roster here. Instead of 8 characters from the get-go, you get 10 this time. And most of the characters from the last game return, but there are a few additions. You got Jack 2, who's pretty much just Jack again, but a little different. Then you got Jun. I feel like Jun might be the main character in this one, aside Hidehachi, but you got her. And then you got Lee or Lei, or however you pronounce it. Comment below on what the pronunciation is. And then on top of that, with 10 characters, you can unlock 15 more with a total of 25 characters in this game. So, a lot of new characters and a lot of returning characters as well. Arcade is pretty much just like the last game. You have a bunch of different stages, and then you have a boss, except this time, on stage 9, instead of Hidehachi, it's Kazuya. And when you beat Kazuya, then you fight Devil Kazuya, so there's a stage 10. This fight's pretty tough, by the way. But then after that, yeah, it's like normal. You beat the game and unlock a new character. Well, what did Tekken 2 bring new to the table? There are a few things that it did bring that are new. One of the big changes that I liked was whenever you're in a fight, you can actually see the command list here. Now you can know exactly what kind of combos you can do, and you don't have to revert to the manual. That's a really nice touch. They did make more game modes as well. You can actually go to practice mode if you want to do some practicing, and you can kind of just fight a dummy or do it however you want. Then you have team battle mode, and this one, you can pick up to 8 different characters and you can go against each other. So it's a pretty good way to, to see who's the last man standing against like a friend or computer. There's also time attack mode, and this is pretty much just a cut down version of arcade mode. You gotta beat each stage in a certain amount of time and get to the end. Lastly, there's survival mode, and in survival mode, you pretty much just fight until you can't fight anymore. This is definitely for the hardcore players and people who definitely want a challenge, because this is definitely tough, and I only lasted like 2 rounds, so. Tekken 2 is easily just more Tekken, but I gotta say, it was definitely a lot more fun than the first game. I like this time around with the characters you can choose from, and with more characters, more game modes, and just better animation, better textures, even more levels, better music. This game's just awesome. Tekken 2 is a cool one. I rented this when I was a kid, but I only played it for like 15 minutes. I got bored because I liked Tekken 3 so much. So Tekken 2 though is a great game, and probably the cheapest game in the Tekken library on the PS1. You could just tell that Namco kept on going, man. They were just going strong with the series. Tekken 3 came out in arcades in 97 and came out on the PS1 in 1998. It probably goes to no surprise what I've said about Tekken 3 so far at the beginning of the video, but it's definitely the best entry in the trilogy on the PlayStation. Mostly all the things in Tekken 2 came over to Tekken 3, but there are some differences, especially with the roster this time. Kazuya has been the main character, as well as Jun, and now it's Jin. Jin is the son of Kazuya and Jun. The tournament is still here, just like the last ones, except this time, it kind of goes back to like the first game. In Stage 9, you fight Heihachi, and then Stage 10 this time, you fight this new guy named Ogre. He's the main villain. When you fight Ogre, you beat him once. Round 2, he's Big Ogre. Tekken 3 definitely has the biggest change to its roster, unlike Tekken 2. Of course, you got Jin. You still have some of the regular ones like Yoshimitsu, Nina, King, and Law, which Law is actually the son of the old Law. That was Martial Law. This game is Forest Law. New ones here like Ling Xiaoyu. She's pretty fun to play with. She's also a very quick character. Hwoarang, he's definitely kind of fun to use too. He's Jin's rival. And then Eddie Gordo. There's a lot of controversy with this character because he's kind of broken from what people say, but he's pretty fun to use. People love him and definitely hate him. There's about over 20 characters like the last game, give or take. A lot of returning, but a lot of new ones as well here. The same game modes that were in Tekken 2 are also back in Tekken 3. One thing I did want to point out too is this game texture-wise just looks so much better than the last two games. All the animations, the characters, they all look really good. I should have brought this up at the beginning of the video, but in all three Tekken games, if you hit X or square, you'll get your different outfit with your character. I think your square button is your modern look, or how they typically look, and X is kind of like their casual look, how they would look with like street clothes or whatever it is. Not to mention, the music in this game is a huge upgrade, and the levels are really cool and memorable. I really like the way they look. The newest game mode in this game that's a huge welcome addition is definitely Tekken Force. Tekken Force is pretty much like its own little game. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, and you can play as any of the characters that you have in the game. This is freaking awesome. I really like this, and I thought it was really cool that they went the extra mile to include a whole new game here, pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty short. You can probably beat it in like 20 minutes or less, but it's still cool nonetheless that it's here. I don't have footage of this, but just wanted to mention too, you do get this new game mode called Tekken Ball, and it's like a volleyball kind of game, and I haven't played it before. I just read up on it and missed that. I was like, wow, I didn't see that. So, wanted to mention that as well. I had a lot of fun playing Tekken 1 and 2 and revisiting Tekken 3. It was a really good time. I don't normally play a lot of fighting games like I mentioned already, but these games really truly make me want to play more fighting games. I had such a fun time learning the combos, playing with the different characters, and it really kind of opened a door for me to make playing more fighting games a priority on this channel someday. Do I think these games still hold up today? Absolutely. They play great. They play just like the modern Tekken games. And really, it's just the way it looks. It's an older game, but it runs at 60 frames per second, and I think this old look really makes it more appealing in my opinion. I just thought the games looked good, they played well, they have great characters and everything. I have nothing really bad to say about the Tekken games, so definitely a thumbs up, and check them out if you have not. To play these games though, mostly they're only on the PS1, but not too bad prices. Tekken 1's the weirdest one. So there's a long box version that's like almost $100, then there's a jewel case version for like $30 or so. I in fact actually have the long box for this, but I don't recommend that. It's a lot of money. So definitely $30 is not bad for that, and the PlayStation Classic as well, just FYI. Tekken 2 is the easiest one to play because it's only like a $10 to $12 game on the PS1, and on PS5 you can pay $10 and digitally download it. Tekken 3, which I think is the best one, is about $25 give or take, complete in box. Not a bad price, but definitely worth it for a pretty good game that you'll probably be playing for a while since there's a lot to do. Namco always knocks it out of the park with these kind of games because they make so many good games. Ever since Pac-Man, they've just been killing it. So the Tekken series is awesome, and it was really cool to experience one of the games that made the evolution of fighting games move on in video game history. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, be sure to give it a like. You got something to say? Leave a comment down below. And of course, if you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks again everyone for watching. Take it easy.